Okay, I'm Ben Brooks, and I'm a disciple of Jesus Christ. And this is episode 32. Episode 32. Today is what we've got. And I've got a real good episode for everybody today. And like I say, this is Teach the Children. And the purpose of this is I have already taught everyone how to get to heaven when they die. Now, the next thing is living a disciple's life until you die. Because this life is long, it's good, and it's joyous if you know how to handle yourself and how to carry yourself through life. My life has been good because I was always a good-hearted person and trying my best to do everything that was right, even though I didn't know everything I should have known. So today is episode 22, and what I've done today, we've got two different translations, because in raising up a child in the way he should go, you got to have more than one translation if you want to properly teach a child what he needs to know to live a disciple's life. So today, we've got two different translations. I've got two different translation of Bibles right here, and I've got 4 or 5 more inside there. So we're going to get started in the usual manner, because what happens when you start raising up a child in the way he should go, those ways don't change. You've got to repeat the same process for each child you're training. And you even have to repeat them down through life to be sure that everything is being followed that God ordered you to teach your children. So today we're going to start with Proverbs 22 and 6. And we're going to use the New Living Translation. And we're going to use the King James Version version of the Bible. So here we go to get started with today's episode. And believe you me, when I say episode, it's exactly that. Because if you've got children and you've got to teach them, you've got a lot of movement and a lot of things you've got to do to show a child what he needs to say, what he needs to see to be properly trained. Proverbs 22 and 6, the New Living Translation. And it says, direct your children unto the right path, and when he is older, they will not leave it. Now that's what the New Living Translation says. Now listen at the King James Version. It says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. You can see the difference right there. There's a little bit of difference. Someone might need that difference. If you don't need it, don't use it. But if you do need it, you can use it because it's written in the Bible. It's written in a different translation. Okay. Now we're going to Deuteronomy, the 6th chapter, and the 7th verse. Same thing, New Living and King James Version. The New Living Version says, Deuteronomy 6 and 7, repeat them again and again to your children. Talk about them when you are at home, when you are on the road, when you are going to bed, and when you are getting up. Now, that's what the New Living Translation says. Now let's see what the King James Version says. King James Version now, Deuteronomy 6 and 7. And thou shalt teach them, King James Version says, and thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children. Thou shalt talk about them when you're at home, and when you're on the road, and when you're going to bed, and when you're rising up. You see, this is the reason I'm putting these two different translations out here today, because there's a little bit of difference in what they say, and it might make a difference in your teaching. Now, we're going to the book of Matthew. We're going to the New Testament now. This is the beginning of teaching a child. This never changes. Now these scriptures that I'm going to read may change because I'm going to teach you a different thing about what Jesus said it takes for you to get to heaven when you die. Everything I'm doing is for you to train up a child so he can get to heaven when he dies. And that'll go for you too if you don't know the way your own self. My mission and my purpose is I want everybody to get to heaven when they die. Now I understand what hell is like. If you miss heaven and happen to go to that place that God created for the devil and his angel, it's not going to be fun. I understand it perfectly. And I don't want nobody to go there. I mean, I'd rather for God to do away with it than for anybody to go there. Now, I know it's prepared for the devil and his angel. It's real, it's there, and it's going to happen. But I don't want any human to get there. It's horrible if somebody set a fire on the inside of you and it start burning and gonna burn forever. That's torment forever. I don't want to see that. Now, I'm thinking starting the New Testament, teaching you what Jesus said it takes for you to get to heaven. And there's going to be a lot of different lessons that's going to follow what I'm giving you today. A whole lot of them. Because there's so many scriptures and so many things you need to be taught. Ooh-wee. It ain't no way I, as one person, can get to it too fast or too quick. It's going to take me a long time. And I'm not in any hurry in getting it all over to you because you already know how to get to heaven. You learned that in the 3rd chapter of John. You learned it. You see what I'm saying? And you learn a whole lot of. I gave you all the scriptures you need. How to get to heaven when you die. All you got to do is follow exactly what Jesus said, and you will get there. Now, there's a lot of teachers on television and radio. I listened to one the other day teaching about disciples. Sure, they got all of the technology, all of the books, and all of the equipment they need, but they refuse to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth. They will not tell it. That's all it is to it. Right now, as near as I can see, if you don't get the whole truth, if you don't get it from me, you ain't going to get the whole truth because they're not putting it on television. I've seen it myself. Now we're going to start with Matthew, the 19th chapter, New Living Translation. But Jesus said, "Let the children come to me. Don't stop them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to those who are like these children." That sounds real good, doesn't it? Let's go right now to the that belongs to these children. In the 15th verse there, King James 19:14 and 15 in the New Version Translation, verse 15 says, "And he placed his hands on their head and blessed them before he left." Now, the King James Version reads just a little bit different. Let me read that again. That's real interesting. But Jesus said, "Let the children come to me. Don't stop them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to those who are like these children." And he placed his hand on their head and blessed them before he left. Ain't nothing better than God himself blessing your children or blessing anyone. King James Version says, "But Jesus said, Suffer little children, forbid them not to come unto me, for such is the kingdom of heaven." And he laid his hands on them and departed. You see the difference in these two translations? There is a difference in the writing. And that's what I want you to teach your children to beware of. It may take a lot of translation to find exactly what you need to know, but read them until you find it if it's necessary. Now, Matthew, the 15th chapter and the 10th verse, the New Living Translation says, "Then Jesus called to the crowd to come and hear. Listen," he said, "and try to understand." Please be advised, Jesus is talking here. Matthew 15 and 10. "Then Jesus called to the crowd to come and hear. Listen, he said, and try to understand. You need to remember this scripture because a lot of stuff I'm teaching you, you may not understand. A lot of stuff you teach your children, they may not understand. You may be teaching your friends and they may not understand. These words that I'm teaching, it is mandatory that you understand it. What we just read about these children coming to Jesus, at first the disciples were rebuking the little children. They didn't want them to come to Jesus because they didn't think it was necessary. Jesus had to teach those disciples what they needed to know. It takes time to teach a person what they need to know. Jesus taught those disciples what God had told him to teach and what he had seen in heaven. That's what Jesus was doing, was teaching those disciples. If you ain't been taught by Jesus, you haven't been properly taught. Now, I'm going to do this one more time. Matthew 15 and 10, the New Living Translation. Then Jesus called to the crowd to come and hear. Listen, he said, and try to understand. Please try. The King James Version says, and he called the multitude and said unto them, hear and understand. In the New Living Translation, they try to understand. The King James Version is more specific. Hear and understand. Well, sometimes you really do have to try to understand. You can't always understand, but you can always give it a try. Now, that's just the way it is. Now we're going to the book of Mark. Mark 8 and 21. And this time, it's not going to be the New Living Translation. This time it's going to be the King James Version of what I'm teaching. And Jesus said unto them, how is it that you do not understand? Jesus said unto them, how is it that you do not understand? He had just called unto them and told them to understand and try to understand what he was saying. Because what was happening, he was telling those disciples over and over, he was teaching them over and over, and they were failing to understand what Jesus was saying and what he was showing there. Sometimes you have to go over it over and over and over before people understand. Now, Jesus had to show those disciples everything, and he had to teach them over and over and over, and then he had to show them also before he got them to understand it. Now, when they became apostles, they had already gotten themselves completely educated. They knew how to handle themselves. They knew what Jesus was teaching, and they knew how to go about teaching it. Mark 8 one more time, the King James Version, 8 and 21. And he said unto them, how is it that you do not understand? Well, I'm going to teach you what he was talking about after a while. This time we're going to the book of John, King James Version again, one verse, number 63. Now, I've took you across a lot of verses in the last few months. A lot of verses. I have never gave you this verse before, but I didn't think you could digest it. I think right now, if you read all the scriptures I've gave you and studied what I said, I think today you might digest this. Because Jesus told them disciples on different occasions to feed the peoples. He told those disciples, he told those apostles to feed the peoples. It was their job to feed the people. It was their job to make disciples. Now, I'm fixing to give you something that you can take with you as long as you live, And when you get to heaven, you'll still have it. You can use it in earth, and you can use it in heaven. This is one verse you can use anywhere. On earth, in heaven, or between heaven and earth. It doesn't make no difference where you're at. You can still use it. The reason I hadn't gave it to you is just like I said. I didn't think you could digest it. Today, I think maybe so, if you followed what I taught. John 6, King James Version now, and verse 63, one verse. I want you to meditate on it day and night. I want you to talk it to your kids when you're sitting in your house. I want you to talk it to your kids when you're walking down the way. I want you to teach it to your kids when you're lying down. And I want you to teach it to them when you're rising up. From the book of John, the 6th chapter, and the 63rd verse. Please don't forget this verse. Write it down. Write it on your doorpost. Write it on the palm of your hand where you can hold it up and read it every now and then. John 6 and 63, nothing more important, nothing. It is the Spirit, Jesus talking here, it is the Spirit that quickeneth. The flesh profit nothing. The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life. Jesus' words are spirit and they are life. And that's what I'm trying to get you into, is everlasting life. When you die, you will go to heaven if you follow Ben Brooks' teaching. Because I'm going to give you the word of God. Jesus Christ was God in the flesh. His disciples, his apostles, gave you his word when they started preaching. Sure, the devil tricked everybody into getting away from it most of the time. But I'm here to get you back into it all of the time. That's my mission. From the book of John again, and this is going to be the last two verses you're going to get today. I think this is about the best lesson so far that I have given, because I think if you read all the past scriptures that I have gave you, you can accept what you're getting today. As Jesus ate the Last Supper with his disciples. I hope that you got enough information now, even though I'm going to keep on teaching a lot of different scriptures. But these, John 6 and 63, and John 11, 25 and 26, I want them to hang with you day, night. I don't care where you're at, working, playing. I don't care what you're doing, singing, dancing. I don't care what you're doing. If you're working or if you're enjoying yourself or laying up on the shade tree at the park, I don't care what you're doing. John 11th chapter, verse 25 and 26, final for the day. Jesus said unto her, and Jesus was talking with a woman that he had cast a whole bunch of demons out of her. She was Jesus' friend, but Jesus couldn't be her friend till he got rid of the demons. Jesus was a friend of a whole lot of people, but he got rid of the devil that was on them first. You can rest assured of that. John 11:25, King James Version of the Bible. Jesus said unto her, I am the resurrection and the life. He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. Listen. If you believe in Jesus and you are dead, you still gonna live. Please understand what I'm reading to you. Now verse 26. Jesus said to that same woman, and whosoever liveth and believeth in me shall never die. He said to her, believes all this. And whosoever liveth and believe in me shall never die, believes all this. Now listen, believing in Jesus is doing exactly what he said, keeping his commandments, following his word. He gave a lot of commandments. You got to keep them if you're going to believe in him. And if you do what he said, you will never die. And he said you can believe this. It is 100% the truth. Today, I have gave you a very good episode. Please copy these, get your hard copy, and teach them to the fullest. There is nothing better that I could have taught today. Thank you very much.